So we are on a planet, as you know. You're hovering in space. Not really hovering, you're caught in the gravity well of a larger body. Me. Welcome. Like and subscribe. Elon Musk is going to rescue us from inevitable doom. Here he is on the Fox News program. Jesse Waters, guy's last name, is a descriptor of most of the Earth's land, which is water, covered with water. You'd think he would know more, but we were going to see ignorance from two people. Although Elon actually does admit something. Actually, we're going to watch this whole thing. We'll rewind it. Jesse Waters prime time. It's Watters is how you pronounce it if there's two T's. So this went viral, this whole notion of colonizing Mars in order to avoid the sun's expansion. As you know, I'm a big space guy. Love it. My dream is to be the domestic servant of an astronomer someday through the gift of marriage. I really mean that. And that will make me a happy boy. Point is, though, I've been paying attention to astronomy and space for a long time, and I'm confident with what I have to say about it. So, not that I'm a scientist or an astronomer, not claiming to know everything, but I do claim to know more than your average dumb fuck in this country. All right? So, we're going to get into it. And wanted to watch the entire video. It's only 4 minutes here. I'm going to obviously jump in. The meaty bit that went viral is right around the 2-minute mark. So, obviously, we're going to get to that. But let's just head in, put on your spacesuit, breathe the oxygen, poop in your diaper. Don't cry, because those tears will fill up on your eyelids because there's no gravity, and that fucks you up. Space is an incredibly dangerous place for all kinds of weird, subtle reasons nobody thinks about. Let's go.
Doge savings are now at $165 billion.
Lies.
That's more than $1,000 for every U.S. taxpayer. And the crooks who stole your money are getting caught. Biden's former State Department analyst.
Sorry, I get it. Like, people are told about the savings per taxpayer. Are you supposed to just think that you have the $1,000 in your pocket? This isn't even necessarily a right-wing only kind of thing, but that whole this cost per taxpayer, you're saving me this. Your bank account doesn't go up when the news tells you that you saved $1,000. Sorry,
guilty to embezzling more than $500,000. She wrote 60 checks to herself and 3 checks to someone else she had a personal relationship with. I wonder what kind of relationship.
Twister partner. We're not even close to the story. Yes, okay. Somebody wrote checks they shouldn't have. They got caught. Good, but the corruption of Trump, the super volcano of wealth that he is going to amass over these next 3.5 years, 4 years, possibly more, is far in excess of any of this. Amazon is spending $40 million to make a documentary about Melania. And I'm pretty confident much of that production cost is going to go right into those big old bank accounts that they have. It's insane. All right, sorry.
A lot of our money's missing. We expect arrests. We interviewed Elon Musk, and we didn't just talk about the future of Doge. We just stumbled upon the future of humanity.
I'm pulling on his phone.
Elon says we're in danger. He's got a plan to save.
What a fucking nerd. Look at that loser. Look at Elon's body. He's just such a weirdo.
Humanity. Elon says we're in danger, and he's got a plan to save us. What's more challenging, going to Mars or taking on Washington?
Going to Mars. Well, not going to Mars once, but say going to Mars to build a self-sustaining civilization on Mars. That is a very difficult thing, which SpaceX has not yet done.
He said we'd have humans on Mars by 2029 or maybe earlier. Like, he's made all these promises. He's just such Simpsons con man monorail guy bullshit. Going to Mars. We got to go to Mars to build a self-sustaining colony. No, it's not going to happen.
Yet to send anything to Mars. So, but whereas we have made significant progress in reducing waste and fraud to the government.
Why are we going to Mars?
Well, we're definitely, this is a change of subject, but it's not about going to Mars to visit once, but it is to make life multiplanetary so that we can expand the scope and scale of consciousness to better understand the nature of the universe and to ensure the long-term survival of civilization in the hopefully unlikely event that something terrible happens to Earth, that there is a continuance of consciousness on Mars.
Okay. There's subtle, like dog whistling to the 14 words, the whole future of civilization is insured. But fundamentally, this is all just boondoggle for free stuff for people who don't deserve it. Free money from the government to this guy, into his companies, into the share price. It's not at all a thing that we need to get humans onto Mars to become a multiplanetary species. Capitalism is going... I'm already getting ahead of myself, but like, we're good at dropping robots on Mars. We're good at sending probes. We're good at sending machines. NASA and big government spending with good science, and we've produced a lot of amazing insights into the universe, into the way the world, the way the cosmos is constructed, and we're going to keep developing all this information. And it's something I'll be sad to lose when I die. 500 years from now, if there's a better world, the amount of stuff, the comprehensions we'll have will be so much different and better than comparatively to where we are. But it's an amazing thing. I'm a huge fan of science and stuff. In fact, pause for a sec. Okay. All right. So I found a video of a guy who knows a lot more than me talking about this stuff. So we're going to hear that later. I'm going to torture you first with my bullshit. So Musk is insistent on selling this vision of going to Mars. I can go on later, and I will. But we're getting closer to the part that went viral, where people were dunking on this guy for being such an idiot. To be fair, the virality, people thought he does actually clarify the timeline. I called him out for being stupid, as if this is an urgent thing about getting to Mars because of the sun expanding. And he does actually say later that we've got several 100 million years, which is all the more reason why it's even dumber. It's one thing if you believe it's sooner, but so people did misunderstand that. That was left out of the clip that went viral. That's why I went to the YouTube video for the fuller context. Let's keep going.
This is a backup plan in case something bad happens here, going to Mars.
That's one of the benefits of Mars, is life insurance for life collectively. So eventually, all life on Earth will be destroyed by the sun. The sun is gradually expanding. And so we do, at some point, need to be a multi-planet civilization because Earth will be incinerated.
Earth will be incinerated. That's this part that went viral. There might be a little bit more to the piece, but like to what went on Twitter. But so Earth will be incinerated someday. By the time the Earth actually is, and the science isn't yet understood yet, or at least predictive, because no one's going to be around for this. It's going to be in about 4 to 4.5 billion years, where the envelope of the red giant of the sun reaches Earth's orbit. But far before that, about 1 billion years, roughly, could be sooner, could be later, the sun will get hotter. Its brightness is slowly increasing, which means it's putting out, more heat, more energy, and that's going to cook the Earth's oceans. So life on Earth is only possible up to about another 1 billion years. This has been pretty well understood. So let's just keep going. I'll get into the ramble after we get a bit more.
I'm hearing this for the first time. No one's ever told me the sun is going to burn Earth.
This is not a disputed fact.
I'm not disagreeing.
But he's exactly an example of the kind of mark that's being tricked by this whole notion of, oh, the sun's going to hurt. Oh, something else to worry about. Oh, my God. We better give money to billionaires who don't have anybody's interest in mind except for their own and their stupid fucking shareholders.
Agreeing with it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I didn't know this was our destiny, to get roasted by the sun.
Yes, and I don't think there's anyone who would disagree with that.
So we have to set up plans to leave and spread out.
I mean, we have several 100 million years.
There.
So it's not...
We have several 100 million years. So it's literally not at all a problem. Of the things that are a risk to Earth, to Earthlings, by far, the number one thing is him. Is lying, greedy capitalists. It's people who have gamed the system so that we have runaway greed and runaway profit. The engine of human ingenuity and human cooperation is bricking the Earth to fulfill the sociopathic impulses of people like him and his cohort. By far, that is the main risk right now. And it's happening. We're deep into it already. There was, I think, the first mention of carbon-related greenhouse gas was in the 1700s. The science has been there for a very long time. And of course, it developed over the 1800s. And we've known that this is what happens. if we aren't careful. In fact, we're in a very rare part of an Earth history. The last 50,000 years or so, there's been a few ice ages, but it's been very stable. In fact, I think that the projection is for another like 40 to 50,000 without messing with the atmosphere. The stability of the Earth's planet and its oxygen percentage, although that's also pretty stable over the last many eons, is an incredibly like peaceful time, an incredibly predictable time for how this planet is evolving. But we're coming along, and the Industrial Revolution comes along, and the Earth seems like an infinite place. We could pollute as much as we want. Look at all the power we can produce by forcing people into precarity so that they can force to work in our factories. Oh, and by the way, we'll just go mug every other continent. We'll just go install dictatorships throughout the land. We'll enslave people because labor produces this abstract thing we call money. And aren't we so impressed with ourselves for having meetings to force people into work camp societies where we make them profit? Oh, and then guess what? People start saying, "Hey, you know what? Maybe the pollution's bad. We're not going to expense the pollution. We're not going to account for the pollution. If we had to account for the cost of pollution, there's no profit. Profit is future debt in the form of pollution. It's forcing some other person in the future to pay a price for the excess of today that, due to market forces and due to government control, government corruption, and the distribution of money, and another way of saying that is the distribution of stress, empowers the fascism that we're seeing in America and the takeover, because people are starting to get wise to this bullshit. And so we are still polluting at a rate that is causing the environment to change, let alone the fucking other ways that pollution is getting into our bodies and causing issues. And largely the wealthy can escape it. There's an entire industry. First of all, in the present, they get to live where the pollution doesn't happen. It only affects people near where it's all going down, near where the SpaceX launches are, near where the data centers are poisoning the areas around them. And they, of course, have all this government influence to change their regulations to allow them to do even more. We're completely disharmonious with the planet. And it seemed rational for a time. Not to say I'm defending that, but I can understand in the past when it seemed like no matter what you did, the Earth was the Earth. There was just this infinite sort of... But the logic of capitalism requires infinite growth on a finite planet, and we're reaching the entropic limit. It's a closed system now. It's a globalized system. So it's going to kill us, and it's already started, and they are doing everything they can to escape it through their emergency escape hatches, either by fleeing to Mars, which is absurd, fleeing to near Earth orbit, or possibly onto the moon, building their immense survival compounds and their survival bunkers. And I think the solution that they have, which is how do we keep the guards loyal to us once money stops being a thing, is because the guys with the guns are just going to take over. That's been a conversation that's been going on. Douglas Rushkoff, I think, is the writer who had an interesting story to tell about that. But the solution to that is just like robot servants and robot, AI type shit. It's just so dystopian. Or upload their consciousness to singularity, or develop technologies or whatever the fuck therapies, like that one weirdo, that translucent vampire guy who's like drinks his son's nipple something. I don't know, that weirdo guy. He's creepy. So this is all just a scam, though. This is all just nonsense. Earth, sorry, I'm going to keep going here, but one of the things about the solar system is we have a warning planet. Our sister planet, Venus, it's like 96% the mass of Earth. It's basically the same size as Earth. The two biggest rocky planets, Earth being the biggest. Shout out to Earth. Venus has runaway greenhouse. Venus is, I don't know the precise composition, but the atmospheric pressure on the surface of Venus is like 900 times what it is here. It's the hottest planet in the solar system. It's hotter than Mercury, which is closer to the sun. It is ferociously uninhabitable. because of its gaseous composition of its atmosphere. And it's not well understood if it always was. And there's a lot of interesting science about going to Venus. It's pretty unlikely we'll ever land there. A couple of landers have gone, and they get immediately like destroyed. I think the Russians dropped a lander a while back, took like a few minutes of pictures, just so we have some photos from the surface of Venus. This is really, otherworldly planet. But we have a warning. We have a worst case scenario. Earth doesn't have to get anywhere close to reaching Venus's potential. We just have to shift it off a little bit. 1.5 degrees C, 2 degrees C. All that means is the planet is now more, it's warmer, but it's like, it's now unable to sustain the balance that it was at. And these dudes can afford to ride it out. They can afford the air conditioning. They can afford to escape. They can afford to flee the zones where the food can't grow anymore. It's going to drive migration patterns of humans and animals, extinction of all kinds of different animals. It's the way we live on this planet is so disgusting. Let's just keep going here. I got more to say.
It's not like you don't hold your breath. It'll be okay, but
it'll be 100 million, several 100 million years. Don't hold your breath. It's literally zero need to think about the Earth being roasted by the sun anytime soon. It's so not a thing whatsoever. And what happens is, so the sun is losing mass every single second of the day, of its day. It doesn't have a day. I guess it does if it spins around once. I don't know, its rotational orbit or period. But it doesn't have night because it's the sun. It's where daylight comes from. But the sun is getting less massive, and counterintuitively, less mass means bigger sun. I know that's weird, but it's because the gravity is slowly going down as the mass goes down. And inside the core of the sun, it's so dense and so much gravity that fusion is happening at all moments. It's an explosion that's happening, but its gravity is powerful enough that it's pulling it down. So that's the balance. That's why it's very stable. And we have very good science around how stars evolve, how stars go through their life cycles and the different kinds of stars. And the reason is because stars are really easy to study because they're gigantic, bright balls of incandescent gas glowing from perpetual nuclear fusion. They're easy to study. It's not hard to take pictures of them and use radio astronomy and all kinds of cool telescopes and shit to study them. We have really sophisticated stuff going on there, and there should be more of it. So as it gets as it gets less massive, its size increases. And this is incredibly slow. And we know stars of our rough composition, our rough size. Our sun is by far the most number of stars in the observable universe are red dwarf stars, which are smaller, bigger than Jupiter, like by a decent amount, but they burn a lot slower. The bigger the sun, bigger stars have more intense gravity, and there's a certain threshold where it reaches where they can actually then become black holes at a certain point when they finally reach supernova phase. But our sun is a decent size, bigger than average, because it's not a red dwarf. But it's incredibly stable, and it's estimated to be about half its age. It's about 4.5 billion years. It's going to go on for another 4.5 to a little bit more, maybe, or something. But it'll slowly turn into a red giant as it loses mass. But that process means it becomes hotter. And as it expands, the habitable zone, the donut, the Goldilocks zone around it, which is where Earth is currently. We have so many beautiful coincidences that allow for life to be here. That habitable zone where water can be sustained and not boiled or frozen, so it can hold its liquid form. That's the generalized notion of where habitability is in terms of our understanding of life's needs. Also expands. In fact, I remember on this interview on Universe Today, which is we're going to listen to this episode or a part of this. This is a great channel. I just want to show you the guy's name is Fraser Cain, or it's Fraser Cain. Really cool channel, really good accessible astronomy news. So I'm just want to shout that out because we're going to play something from them. He had an interview with the guy. I think it was that channel. It could have been, but I remember hearing it. So it was fascinating. And orbital mechanics are super complex and weird and interesting. There's a lot of counterintuitive stuff to the way gravitational bodies affect each other. They line up in this thing called resonance, and it's this cool, it's really interesting. It's also affected, special relativity is a factor as well, and just quantum stuff, whatever. And this guy said that, he was talking about this topic, and he said that it's actually possible. We've run simulations, because gravity, even though it's really complex, it's also very easy to simulate in terms of what the current computers we have. We understand it very well, and we have supercomputers. We have, systems that run models. A lot of astronomy isn't just data collection, it's data analysis and running models, running simulations. That's a huge field of it. You can be an astronomer that never looks through a telescope because you do models and simulations based on good data and good science. Anyway, so they've done model simulations where they can actually park asteroids in certain parts, I don't know precisely the details, that somehow mess with Earth's orbit very subtly, very, very, very little bit, but enough to cause the Earth to slowly expand its orbit. Its radius from the sun would start to move. And that doesn't mean that in 10 years or even 100,000 years, we'll be like, oh, the Earth's flying away from the sun. It's like inches or millimeters or something. But over the scale of like 100 million, 200 million, like over the scale that we're talking about in terms of when the sun's habitable zone is going to start expanding because the sun is getting bigger, it's possible that we can solve this. It's not actually as much of a problem as we think. And another thing people point out is that Mars is also subject to the warming of the Earth. It actually would need to be warmed quite a lot to terraform it. There's so many reasons we shouldn't go to Mars. It's absolutely crazy to try to put humans on Mars. We're going to kill some smart people. In our lifetimes, the most we'll do on Mars is kill some smart people in some disastrous failure to launch. But the testing is something that guy's going to talk about. The amount of stuff we have to do to get right is incredibly, almost prohibitive in terms of including humans on Mars. Robots can handle it. We're already doing pretty cool stuff. We have a little, I think it finally died, but we had this little helicopter flying around Mars, this little cool thing. They had to test it within an Earth gravity environment. Like Mars only is 39% gravity of Earth. There's so many reasons why humans are going to do horribly over on that awful planet. We have this amazing place that is pristinely designed for humans and the human psyche and us to live in the full expression of our biology. So it's super interesting science that goes into like, can we make the Earth's orbit slightly widen? There's actually a movie, I think it was from from China, some Chinese company made the film, but it's like something spaceship, or I don't know what it's called, but they're trying to like expand. It's an emergency thing, like the sun's expanding. And so they have all these rocket thrusters on the planet. And as the Earth rotates, they activate the rocket thrusters to produce a thrust to push the Earth away. Not as easy as just chipping away at its orbital dynamics somehow through clever placement of like mass. And that's possible. More than likely what's going to happen is this dumb fucking idiot on screen is going to be given enough money because their capitalism in space is so tempting, especially with the high metal asteroids and also harvesting them from the moon's regolith and from the moon's soil. That's what they call moon soil. It's called regolith, not bragging or anything. But bringing asteroids and going to them and then, chiseling crap out and then flying them here is how you might think. But what it'll actually try to do is they're going to land on asteroids and try to steer the asteroid closer to Earth, turn it into a ship. Could be pretty cool. Maybe that's a way, like when they speculate about building space elevators, it usually starts with like an asteroid being parked in a geosynchronous orbit and then machines that build the tether that go all the way down. Complex. It's not as easy as you think. But what this dumb guy is going to do is he's going to fuck that up and he's going to crash an asteroid into the Earth. He's going to mess that up somehow. So this is science. This is like shit that we got to be very careful with. Science, space, and all this other stuff. But the sun is not going to, it is absolutely not something we need to even begin thinking about for 400 million years. and the amount of changes that are going to happen to the planet between now and then, and the pace of destruction being caused by capitalism. So the three things that are actually the main threat. In fact, let me just rule out one of the other ones real quick. There's been some studies, we did a mission where just Earth scientists sent a collision. We've landed on some asteroids. We collected some samples. One was called the Bennu, but we also tried to redirect one to see if we could hit it. First of all, I don't remember the amount of mass that they had, like a cooler filled with, frozen shrimp or something. But they were successful with their mission to impact this asteroid or this comet or something. It was an asteroid, I think. And they're able to measure then how much they redirected it. And it wasn't a lot, but even a small impact made a measurable and noticeable difference in how much it changed its orbit. In other words, it moved it. And if we can detect asteroids, because we do worry about asteroids, that is a legitimate thing. If you've seen Don't Look Up, hot people like David Sirota and Leonardo DiCaprio will be murdered from an asteroid, screaming at everybody that it's going to get bad. The dinosaurs, I'm sure you're all familiar. That's a real risk. A big one. Like, sometimes these things happen. There was a huge one in Siberia, Russia, that in the 1800s. Luckily, it was like a forested area. But if something like that hit a city, it's a bad day for that city. These things are scary things. But we have such good astronomy and telescopes. We have the capability, and we're building better ones and more. So monitoring the skies for rocks that might hit the Earth is really good to do. We should do that. It's low probability, but we can spot things ahead of time, and we can hit them with something and redirect it and do it to enough of a degree that over several orbits, because usually it's like that we see it and it rotates around the sun usually, is before it intersects with Earth's orbit. It's complex, but it's possible that it's not as much of a threat as we think if we have the funding to sustain good astronomy and missions that are ready to go to redirect an asteroid. That's like a thing that we should be talking about on a planet where we're actually being responsible with our power as a human collective, as this ridiculously absurd but also amazing species. The three things that are actually worrying is climate change, runaway capitalism. That's absolutely urgent. That's going to force all sorts of major disruptions. It's very dystopian. In fact, we're going to look at some Naomi Klein here in this 45-hour podcast. Number 2, nukes. Humans warring with each other. Irresponsible use of science and technology that could cause extinction. A full-scale nuclear exchange probably would kill everybody. There might be slivers of survivors here and there, but that's a big one. That's actually a very huge risk, and that's terrifying. We should be scared. And what a nightmare that we live in a planet where people like Elon Musk are in charge. Populations are manipulated by losers like this Jesse Watters guy. And people like Donald Trump get in power. People like Joe Biden get in power. Just fucking psychos. Really dangerous. Among the reasons the collective has to assert some responsibility over the planet. But the real one, and I've heard astronomers talk about this, is supervolcanoes. A volcano eruption can change global temperatures just by seeding the sky with debris, with ash and other stuff. And that can cause major disruptions to climate patterns. But even a big volcano explosion, there was a huge one. I think I covered it on this channel outside New Zealand like 4 years ago. And it was a surprise. It was underwater. So it was this enormous, it was filmed from space. Super interesting. Amazing moment. And that wasn't anything close to what a proper supervolcano is. Yellowstone here in America is, I think, one of the main candidates for a dormant old supervolcano. But the Earth has tremendous heat and power inside it. It's still a molten ball in the middle, unlike Mars. Mars is understood, although maybe there's some new science on this, but I'm pretty sure Mars is basically too small, or like because it's much smaller than Earth. It's sort of intuitive here. Is like a bigger body is going to take longer to cool down than a smaller body. Mars is basically dead inside. It has one of the it has the largest volcano in the solar system, Mount Olympus Mons, and it's this amazing geographic feature. Do you say geography, or is that Earth centered? Anyway, it's this huge thing. It's got this enormous plateau volcano and these huge cliffs. It's like miles tall. It's amazing. So they had some huge blister pop on Mars. So I wonder if that was like the final, like where most of its internal heat escaped and it kind of cooled off internally. I think there's still some heat in the core. It's got to be, I imagine. But anyway, Earth is a very busy volcanic system still. And it's possible that a supervolcano would go off, which is like an enormous eruption. And then it could be lights out for Earth, for humanity at least, for like millions of years before the planet recovers, because that's what could trigger massive destabilization. So that's actually something we need to be concerned of. We need to study. Like John fucking McCain, I remember being like cynical about monitoring volcanoes. They just want to monitor volcanoes. And it's like remarking on government waste and spending. Fucking stupid. Like, why wouldn't we? So like the volcano thing is huge. And maybe there's technological interventions. Maybe there's, venting it, or I don't know what the fuck, but like it's a thing. It's a real risk. And it's more than likely that something like that will happen with between now and 300 million years or 100 million. But like the idea, your brain can't comprehend 10,000 years, let alone 100,000, let alone a million, right? Like, you don't know, a million years. There's only been complex life on the Earth, from the Cambrian explosion, I think, 650 million years ago? So this notion that we got to worry about this is ridiculous. It's completely stupid. It's just going to be a way to get people riled up, to justify destroying the Earth. It's similar to the purpose heaven serves to religion, in my assessment. I think Earth is heaven. Earth is the heaven. Earth is what we got. Earth is all you got. Earth is everything. Earth is it. It's an absolutely glorious place. And it's a horror show too, by the way, but it's so beautiful, this planet, from a cosmic perspective. And you can justify destroying it by promising that you can get this experience. I think the community connection of humanity, which is why it hurts to be alone and it hurts to be isolated, and why altruism feels good, is we evolved on what would be thought of as something like heaven. Plus they got to see really cool, scary animals. They looked after each other, and and so we're and they converted this place into hell, basically. Not to make it all about religion or something, but I'm just saying, like, by promising Mars as an alternative to Earth, we can fuck up Earth. By promising heaven as an alternative or as your reward, we can justify the abuse and the sacrifice that you have to give to your masters while you're a corporeal being. So this is fundamentalism in a sense. Stupid fucking idiot. What a ridiculous joke that people take this guy seriously. Tax these billionaires out of existence.
If Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years, which is what the fossil record suggests,
no,
then
there are no fossils that are 4.5 billion years old. Dipshit. There's microbial evidence going back like 2.6 billion or something like that. Maybe you could call those fossils. Fossils come from plants and animals. There was various epochs of Earth's origins where it couldn't sustain or had any life on it at all. It was like a magma ball for a while, impacted, late heavy bombardment after it had formed. It was whacked by a thing we think. All the models seem to show this is probably the best guess for how the moon formed. Something called Theia is what we've named it. It was basically a Mars-sized object. So the solar system, as the sun's accretion disk formed and it became the sun, all the planets formed out of this gaseous plane. You can almost think of like the planets as construction material for the sun, leftover bits that would have gone into the house, but you never use up everything to make the house. The dumpster outside the construction site became the planets, basically. It's all built from the same shit, which is the remnants of previously exploded suns and maybe some primitive, ancestral hydrogen too, but it's all the same stuff. There's no fossil record that goes back 4.6 billion years. You could chalk that up to like just imprecise language, but it's just a stupid idiot.
Earth only has about 10% more life in it before it gets so hot that life is impossible.
And you're going to be the guy.
See, there
to
you go.
Put us
We're going to give you money
closer to where we need to be to get to Mars.
We're headed there. Yeah, we have a long way to go because it's not about just landing on Mars and doing flags and footprints. It's about creating a self-sustaining city on Mars. With the fundamental fork in the road of destiny being that Mars is sufficiently self-sustaining and can grow by itself.
The fork in the road of destiny is Mars will grow by itself. We're not going to do Mars. The only hope of humans inhabiting Mars is solving the consumption problem here. We have to not do climate change. Socialism isn't the answer. Socialism would buy us a little bit more time to figure out the answer. We have to live in harmony with the planet. And the current regime of economic system is showing that is incongruous with living in harmony with the planet. Because I don't want to argue that socialism would absolutely figure that out. I'm saying that you give people more say over their lives, which is all that socialism really means. You increase the democracy dial, more agency, workplace democracy, unions, sectoral bargaining, worker co-ops, ownership, collective ownership, collective management of resources. That gives us more time because we'll be wiser. The group will be wiser. We'll still make stupid fucking decisions considering the information system of our current democracy. But if we cared for each other, we built a world for dignity, human beings were able to function within the potential of their authenticity as groups, as collective animals, which is what we are now. We're not functioning that way, but we're still deeply collective. Whether you think you're an individual or not, you're fucking not. Individualism is weakness. That's why they prefer it, because it keeps you weak. It prevents you from having the leverage you need to improve your life. So I'm not like a lot of lefties might just be like, the answer is social. The answer to capitalism is more power to people. That would be socialism of something along that vector. Absolutely. I'll defend that. I'll fight for that. That's what I'm doing with my project. That's what this podcast is about. But the consumption thing has to be solved. The way we live has to change. That's the main thing. Well, the course we're on, which is runaway sociopathic capitalism, it's absolutely going to ruin everything. I mean, we're doing accelerationism here. That's the plan. I mean, it's not. I mean, that's just what's happening.
If the resupply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason, whether that is because civilization died with a bang or a whimper, but if the resupply ships are necessary for Mars to survive, then we have not created life insurance. We've not created life insurance for life collectively. So that's the key point in the future.
So he's acknowledging that living on Mars would require a tether to Earth, not a physical one, but a shipping system, a route. Getting to Mars is difficult. There's different ways of, it's orbital stuff. There's windows to reach it. It's a very fraught. Reproducing in space is another one of those ethical things. Will a baby grown in a womb in space develop? How do you test that? Growing a human infant, a human baby inside a womb in 0G? How are you supposed to test that ethically? the microbe differentiation, cutting off. So we all live in this nutrient cocoon of microbes that are very much part of our being that we need.
Where destiny of life as we know it will forever be affected is when Mars becomes self-sustaining.
People like that asshole are going to drag us into fucking hell, okay? So let's not follow those stupid pieces of shit. Let's just jump over here. One of my favorite astronomy channels is, well, I'll just show you the beginning. It's this guy, Fraser Cain. It's a question here about, the question is, what level of trust do you have in SpaceX getting us to Mars? I really like this dude. If I was a person of means, I'd have no money, I would definitely be supporting his Patreon. Seems like a really solid guy. I've been watching the show for years. I do go through phases where I consume less astronomy stuff, but astronomy's been one of my hobby horses since I was a child, right? That's why I speak with confidence about a lot of this stuff. So I hope you're learning from it. I do believe that I'm not misleading people here. I'm sure some of the dotted T's might be crossed with I's, right? Does that make sense? I might be getting minor things a little wrong, but you know, I hope you trust the spirit that I'm definitely not speaking from total ignorance, because I love it. I think it's so interesting. But he answers this question. It's a bit long, and I hope it's not copyright matched or something. But I'm that's why I'm trying to promote the guy's channel. So everybody go support this channel if you're interested. Good stuff, and you don't have to be like a super egghead about it. He's very accessible sort of stuff. And of course, he starts out with, please don't fight in the comments because Elon Musk causes people to fight, which is just yet another reason. Indicator of just how kind of gross and sadly insubstantial that guy is. He's not someone we should be trusting. He is incentivized to destroy the planet and be one of the few, he's such a liar. He's such a fucking scoundrel. Let's just listen.
Level of trust you have in SpaceX getting us to Mars. So I'm just going to start this
We'll go faster a little bit and I'll slow it down.
A plea
1.5
for people to settle down on wherever you stand on this. I'm going to attempt to discuss what I think is a fairly nuanced view of this in a time which is very politically divisive. So that's my disclaimer out of the way. Don't fight. So, obviously I've been watching SpaceX for my entire journalism career, from when SpaceX was founded to their first test flights, to the first tests of the Falcon 9, to the first time that they were able to successfully land a booster, to the announcement that they were going to do the Dragon, the Cargo Dragon, the Crew Dragon, the announcement of the Falcon Heavy took 10 years, the final launch of the Falcon Heavy. And then the announcement in feels like it was 20.
It's 1.5x, right? By the way, I know I said that, but I speak at 1.5x. So
16 of Starship, and then of course watching all of the various tests of Starship. So I've been there this entire time watching and reporting on all of this stuff. And the larger perspective that I have is that space is really difficult, and that the timelines for this kind of thing take a lot longer than anyone ever expects. And so we always used to joke that you would have like Elon time. And so he would say something was going to happen, and you just like double and add 3 years or whatever was the number you wanted. But yet you can watch like a Falcon Heavy take off, and then the two side boosters land side by side.
Okay, so he talked about like SpaceX technologies and reusable rockets and stuff like that, and kind of the costs that go into it, and the technology about sending robots to Mars, getting to Mars. I've said that already. We can get there, not a problem. But now he gets at humans to Mars. That's clearly what the person is asking. Here we go.
Question that you're asking is, what trust do I have in SpaceX
1X.
sending human beings to Mars on a regular basis? And that's a different question, right? That is a vastly more complicated thing. I've talked about many times that we don't know what just being on Mars does to the human body for long periods of time, that it doesn't make sense for people to live long-term on Mars. They need to be able to come home. And so you need to be able to have starships go to Mars, land on the surface, people to be able to get out safely, Starship to be able to be refilled with fuel for them to be able to get back on a Starship, maybe not the same Starship, and come home. And there's a gigantic stack of technologies, of tests, of things that need to be done for that to be accomplished. That the Super Heavy booster needs to be able to launch, the Starship needs to be able to detach, needs to be able to go to orbit, needs to be able to refuel, and it needs to be safe. And then these people to carry people, and it's got to have facilities on board this Starship for months to be able to make the journey to Mars. It's got to be able to enter the atmosphere on Mars. It's got to be able to decelerate. It's got to be able to land safely. It's got to be able to rebfuel. It's got to be able to take off. It's got to be able to come home. Like, there's a lot of steps to do that. And each one of those steps is going to take a lot longer than anyone thinks is going to happen. And so, with unlimited funding and unlimited runway, I think that this is an engineering challenge that either SpaceX or other rocket companies would be able to figure out over time. How do you get people to Mars, land them on the surface, and then return them safely home to Earth? But I don't think it's going to be easy. And I think that there is this expectation there's just going to be this steady stream of starships blasting off and going to Mars and settling down and building this city. And I don't think it's going to be that. I think that Mars sucks, and that there's really a fairly small limit of people who are going to want to live on Mars. It won't be self-sufficient for hundreds of years. So it's going to be this gigantic cost that Earth is going to
hundreds of years if we tried, with all that testing that has to happen, which means a lot of failures along the way.
have to bear. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of appetite for that after a while. You're like, oh, we're going to spend another $500 billion this year on keeping the Mars colony alive. Maybe that's too much money to spend. What if we cut that budget? Right? So I think that it's going to be a lot more complicated than anybody thinks. And I think that we don't want the outcome as much as we think we do. And those two things are going to conspire together to make it eventually just stop happening. That there will be missions to Mars, there will be humans going to Mars, maybe one day we'll have a research station on Mars, but that is a vastly simpler thing than trying to create a self-sustaining colony on Mars that could last for a long time. So it's not about trust in SpaceX for me. I am unconvinced that that's even a goal that humanity will have the stomach to pursue and to pay the price that it's going to cost in terms of human lives, in terms of the billions of dollars it's going to take to make it happen. And that I think that eventually the technology will be used on the ways that make the most sense, the ones that make the money, the ones that we have the need for, launching new space telescopes, launching communication satellite networks, sending missions to the moon, who knows? But, it's like we could build a colony on Mars, but we probably won't want to. It's time to
Boom. Go to the channel, guys. That's a great one. Universe Today, Fraser, Cain. Really good stuff. He does a good job. He answers questions from people, and you can tell his audience is like good, curious laymen, which is what I hope you are. So that's excellent.